Hi everyone, today we are doing a March wrap-up. We're gonna see if I read any of my March TBR that I had picked earlier this month. Spoiler alert, I did not. So we have all the books over here. It's a huge pile, okay? We have like 10 books, I can't even pick it up. We're gonna do statistics first. We're gonna do a little bit of statistics first. Let's see how much I read this month. So this month, in March, I didn't read a lot. I've been in a reading slump so bad. Like last month in February, I read 12 books. This month, so far, I only read 6. I finished 4 and I DNF'd 2. I haven't been keeping track of my reading spreadsheet that much, so I don't even have a page number on here. So the first one that I finished was on audiobook. Most of these books that I'm going to talk about you're going to see in the vlog that I'm going to post soon. It's going to be my first vlog, so I'm excited. I didn't realize how hard it was going to be to edit a vlog. I filmed over I had over 40 different footage, videos to upload in there and to edit and put together. So it's gonna take me a while as I'm learning to do that. So you'll see those books repeated in the next video probably. But I'll have a little bit more thoughts on them. So the first one that I finished is the Napolitan novels, number 2, the Italian novels, Story of a New Name. It's by Elena Ferrante. I'll put the image up here. Well, I guess I have it here. I love this series so much. It's so good. I guess, also spoiler alert, I finished the 3rd one as well, Those Who Leave and Those Who Stay. I am obsessed with this series. I would never have thought that contemporary stories were my thing, contemporary fiction was my thing, but this made me change my mind because I want more stories like these. This is so well written and so gripping, and the characters are so interesting. You need to go read this. In the second book, you're following Lila and Elena as they're growing up, so in their youth and in their teenage years. And this is so far my least favorite book out of the series. I think the youth part is still very interesting to me because Lila is going through a lot and you see how she reacts to it and you see how her character never changes. Even though there's so many things happening to her, she's still this very strong character that won't budge. Story is being told to us through Lenu. And I don't know how reliable of a storyteller Lenu is, of a character Lenu is. See Lila as this fierce, strong character. And so during her youth, she goes through a lot of different things that she's 14, 16 at the time. So victim to a lot of violence at the hand of her husband. She gets married, she has kids so young. So it's very interesting to follow through that and see how she reacts and see what she does. So that youth part, the first part of the book was the most interesting to me. The second part of the book is during their teenage years, and that's when they kind of start to split off a little bit. So it felt a little bit less interesting. To me, this one is a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I honestly really enjoyed it, but I preferred the first book. And then reading the 3rd book, I absolutely adored the 3rd book. This is the end of their teenage years and well into their 20s and 30s. So they're both married, they have kids, and it's now more focused on Lenu. So the first, I would say, 2 books were heavily focused on Lila because their relationship was so consuming to Lenu. Sorry, I needed to put the light on. So I need this glare to go away. Anyways, the first 2 books was more focused on Lila because their relationship was so toxic and so codependent that that's all that Lenu could think about or who she was. Basically, in the first 2 books, you only know Lenu in how she views herself through Leela's eyes and how she views Leela in her relationships and their relationship. So it's really interesting to see this shift happening in the third book where they have a break in their friendship. And so Lenu now is able to really step up as her own self and really is able to become who she wants to be outside of Leela's shadow. She does things that I would never thought her character would do. I always saw her character as very, not rigid, but like follower of the rules and not wanting to do wrong and wanting to be perfect and wanting to like have people see her in a good light. So there are things that she's gonna do that I find really interesting on how she's kind of rebelling against that image of herself when she's not in the grasps of Leela and hers relationship. So I'm really enjoying this series. I have just the last book left, and that's probably going to be my April TBR. So yeah. The second book that I finished this month was A Broken Blade by Melissa Blair. I really enjoyed this book. I was actually pretty surprised by it. Somebody had recommended it to me because they said that it was similar to A Throne of Glass by Sarah J Maas, which I am really enjoying. I'm in the middle of that series. I'm really liking it. And when I started this book, I could see the resemblance to it, but the character at first wasn't as strong as the character in Throne of Glass. And so I was slightly disappointed, but then as I continued reading, I was really interested in the world and really interested in the promises that were being made throughout the story. I continued and I was really surprised at the end of it. I really liked it. So I'm definitely continuing this. I gave it, I think, a 4 out of 5 star, or maybe a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It was really good. So I'm gonna read the second book in the series. So the story, if you don't know, is about this character. Her name is Kira, and she is the right hitman basically for the king of her kingdom. And she's a halfling. And halflings in this country are basically property of the king. So they're not allowed to go wherever they want unless the king says so. They're not allowed to just live freely unless it's with the king or for the king. And she is gonna have to go investigate into the world of the elves, and things are gonna ensue. So I really enjoyed this book, highly recommend, and I'm gonna continue with the series probably in April. We'll see. The next one I read was These Violent Delights. Unfortunately, I DNF'd this one. I was really enjoying it. I was really intrigued by the story, and I initially picked it up because I was told that it was a Romeo and Juliet retelling. I mean, it's literally on the blurb. But reading it, I was like about maybe 50% into it. It just was not a Romeo and Juliet retelling. None of this made me think of Romeo and Juliet, besides the names and besides the fact that they're in rival gangs or like rival families. I loved the premise and I loved the setting. So it's set in Shanghai in the 1920s, if I remember correctly, maybe 1940s. And it's about the two families who are rival gangs and who are trying to gain control of the city, but then there's a monster or an illness that's killing people around town. And so they have to kind of join forces to be able to figure out what's happening in their town. I really went into this thinking it was going to be a romantic story. It was going to be a Romeo and Juliet with a little bit of drama and this extreme tension. But it was just more like mystery of what's happening in the town, and there wasn't like, I didn't really like any of the chemistry between the characters. Yeah, decided to DNF it. I was really sad about it because I had the duology and I was really enjoying it initially, but something about it just, then it was a no for me, so I DNF'd that one. My second DNF of the month was Cruel Prince by Holly Black. I cannot stand this book. I started it and I tried reading it. I was probably 10 pages into it and I could not do it. I couldn't do it. The writing is okay, but it's just the storyline and the story that was being told to us. I just couldn't adhere to it. It really starts with 3 girls who are sisters, and they witness the murder of their parents. And there's this guy who just murdered their parents who's trying to take them away to his underworld, I think. He's a fairy. And he just takes them away, and that's how that starts, and that's the story. And then girls are starting to like him, so it gives a little bit of Stockholm Syndrome vibe, and I couldn't do it. I know this is an unpopular opinion, but this really wasn't for me, so this is being sold. I finished Monstrous Volume 8 by Marchwrapup. Volume 8 is called Inferno. Honestly, I was a bit disappointed in this. I have read the whole series so far, and this is the latest volume that came out in October of last year. And I really was enjoying the story. I really was loving it. But I guess something changed, and it was fading a little bit for me, because this was too graphic for me. This was too gory. And the main character, she's unlovable, but she becomes lovable at some point. You understand her pain, and you understand where she's coming from, and you see that she's making some sort of efforts. But in this one, it was like she was back to being the same initial person that she was, and it's as if no growth had ever happened. And so I was really disappointed in this. So I finished it, I kind of skimmed the end of it, and I will not be continuing the series. This was a 2 stars for me. Oh, and I forgot to mention, my DNFs I don't rate. I don't give any star ratings. It looks like we have our 6 books. Let's see. Yes. And then the final book, a 7th book, so I guess I DNF'd 3 books this month, is Evolved Woman. It was a book that I had started with my friend Tiffany for our book club that we're starting. It was a book a little bit too much. It's a self-help book, and it was a bit too much on religion, and I didn't really like that. I didn't really adhere to that or relate to that at all. So we decided to stop. She also didn't really like it, so we decided to stop it, and we will be switching over to another book. So I'll let you guys know when we've picked another book. So on this pile of books that I've read, these 3 were on my March TBR. 2 of them I DNF'd. 1 of them I really enjoyed, but those are the only 3 books out of all of my TBR March book that I had planned to read. I'm a really big mood reader, so really hard for me to stick to TBRs, but I want to try. So you'll see another April TBR, and we'll see if I can make it this time. That's better than I expected. I didn't think I would read any of those books on the TBR. That is my March wrap up. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in a video soon. Bye!